Hey guys, Antigrapist here. Today I want to talk to you about my round 2 Jank Tank Open match. So really briefly, here's my squad. So I'm flying a 5-ship separatist list. Key points are I have Watt with Kraken to let me keep calculate tokens until the first initial engagement, and potentially after that if I don't steal them. He also has Soulless One to help keep him alive, with the extra health and rerolls. Two Hydrocross bombers, one this PS3 with a plasma torp, a great alpha strike weapon, and then I have a PS1 guy with concussion missiles, Proxima and shields, both with struts, and then I have Nakeds, Cohen Ace, and a Trade Federation drone. And today my opponent is flying a Rebel list. So he has two Z95s, Aaron Kraken, Lieutenant Blount. He has Benthic 2 tubes with Leia and the Pivot Wing title. And he has a Corn Horn with R2 Astromech, which has some really good synergy with allowing him to double tap and then regen and get rid of both disarm tokens on the same turn. So it's sort of like if you can get Corn Horn to the late game, Corn Horn is not a bad late game piece, but he's nowhere near as good as he was in version 1.0 with Push the Limit. Like version 1.0 Corn could like solo like half my list. Like this version can't. So generally, like I would love to like joust this list. Like if I get the ranges right, like I can really dish out a lot more pain than he can deal in return. So looking at initial setup, like before, I placed a gas cloud and then the two largest rocks left in the corners because I want them out of the way. I want to keep my ships together in this like box formation, and my opponent put these three, one in the middle, and then it looks like he was content to just have these be out of the way and sort of have a fight in this open area rather than like say setting up down here. Like I set up my PS1 guys first, but he could have set up down here. I guess one key thing I'll mention is if he had done that, I would put the ace up here to like flank in. But he didn't, so the ace goes down here. I'm a little worried if I put it like way up top to try and get the like flank and stall and then like flank once my major force is engaged, that he'll just like rush it, and I won't be able to get it out of the fight and get these guys into the fight fast enough to really contribute. Okay, so for the first round, I'm just sort of content to just go 4 forward with all my guys. Scoring ace will go 5 forward, and then as we'll see, I have some options depending on what my opponent does as to how I want to like flank with the ace. Okay, so now that I did the 5 forward, I ended up deciding to barrel roll my ace over and decided to bring him up and take him up this route instead of going the long way around. Mostly because I was worried that I wouldn't actually get into the engagement sort of in time. You have to go really fast, like in boosting every round, and you're sort of like just barely get there in time. I ended up running it back in the log with the log file, and if I gone like 5 forward boost, 3 bank boost, 3 bank boost, like I would have gotten on par, on the same spot as my other guys at the same time, and it would have been a better, potentially a better formation a little bit. But this going this way ended up working out. I again decided to just go 4 forward. I want to get around this rock before I start to turn in. Like you can also come up here and over. Potentially, and was also a pretty good option. Like catch Cornhorn, or if you don't catch Cornhorn, you at least force him to go the long way around this rock. You can potentially go in and try and kill some of the other ships. But if you don't do it like really quickly, he'll like come around this rock and catch you from behind, and it's not good there. But I ended up going just the 4 forward. I could tell he was just gonna stall out a little bit, like slow play here, try and flank with Corn. Okay, so getting ready for this next turn. one thing I want to mention is that I switched tactics a little bit, and now Watt is using the calculate option from the Kraken upgrade to give himself a calculate that he's keeping around. So Kraken lets 3 friendly ships in range keep calculate tokens around. He's always in range of himself to keep it, and by doing this, the network calculation ships can still get it from Watt, but Watt has it if Watt needs it. And I was sort of worried that he was going to be focused down because Korn put his target lock there. Ended up not being the case. The other thing is I did 3 turns with most of my ship and a 2-turn with Watt because Watt doesn't have a 2-turn. I could have done 2 turns with all my ships. It would have been close enough to get in range. Benthic, except for maybe the Trade Federation drone, might have been just out of range then. It ended up working out. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what happened in the firing for that last round and my plans for this upcoming round. So he mostly tried to focus down my Hyena class bomber here. He only did 3 damage to it, which in the grand scheme of things is not that bad. Korn had to take a shot at my ace. He did 2 damage there. I think I had to spend my focus token to avoid taking cut down on the damage coming in. I decided to shoot Benthic, both because I wasn't sure if his Z95s were going to be in range when I took the target locks, and he sort of, he did move them in, I think. So the combination of my plasma torpedo and then my concussion missile and then a shot from the Trade Federation drone, I ended up doing, Benthic has 8 HP to begin with. I put him at 2, so I do 6 damage, which is pretty good. Definitely leaves him in range to where like Watt can pretty safely like hit him up next round with like a range 1 shot and comfortably kill him before he can shoot again, which is always pretty good. I do get 2 crits. They don't really matter. Lucky. So one thing I'm doing here is I'm concerned that Korn is just going to do like a 1 forward or a 1 bank and go try and kill the ace, which I thought and still kind of think that that's probably the best play. Turns out he was more interested in like flanking in on getting shots into my bomber squad. So doing like a 2 bank barrel roll focus is better than my 3 forward barrel roll focus. Because I end up not having a shot. I end up staring up into this asteroid over here, and his C95s move a little bit more aggressively than I expected, and I don't have them in arc. Rest of my ships just going 2 forward, and I did this in the last game. I have this injured Separatist bomber. I end up doing a fast move, and I do block Aaron, but I end up like not having a shot in return, and I don't know. It ends up working out for me, but I'm not sure it's like the greatest move either. Sort of different. I could have just done a 2 forward, had potentially a shot on Benthic, and if Benthic died, with Watt shot, then potentially a range 1 shot, or at least force the Z95s to shoot into Separatist bomber while still probably getting blocks off. Okay, so this is one of the key turns. He ends up doing a 2 bank boost with Korn because of my safe play with the ace. He ends up doing no shot, so he boosts into arc. Probably not. It ends up being a pretty solid move because it gets him out of SA's arc, and I don't really have the ability to shoot at Korn right now because even though Watt doesn't have a shot at him, and Watt has to kill Benthic. Where he ends up making a mistake is he takes a target lock with Blunt, and he ends up using Aaron's ability to give Blunt a focus, and it's a red action, which is a big problem in this situation because now he's forced to do a blue move or he's forced to do a white move, and turn and get no action, when instead he should really just be only focusing here shooting someone. I'm not sure about potentially shooting the Trade Federation drone. It works out because he gets the kill, but if he had instead, taken a focus, put some damage on, Watt or Tub, and then done a 3K turn next turn, it puts him in a much better position to get damage over time versus trying to get all the damage in this one turn. The other thing I want to mention is I do end up killing him. I do end up killing Benthic with Watt. At this time, I thought that was, a little bit lucky having these 3 ships shoot at him sort of at range down at the turn before, and then Watt killing in this turn. But look, there's a really cool X-Wing probability calculator. And it lets you, put in the actions of your opponent's dice, and you can put in all this stuff for your ships. Sorry about that. Dog barking. And you can look and you can see, I put in all 4 of those attacks that I shot into Benthic, and you can see how much damage on average you can expect to do. If you look at that, 75% of the time almost, I do the 8 damage necessary to kill Benthic. So that's really pretty likely to happen. A 1 in 4 chance for Benthic to survive. It's not great odds. And if he had had more HP, I would have, played slower with the Separatist Bomber and had a second PS3 shot to try and finish him off. Okay, so in that round of shooting, I take Benthic off the board with Watch Shot. I think Tub takes his shot at Aaron and misses. He takes 1 damage on Watt and takes my Trade Federation droid off the board. And SA, yeah, like I said, had no shot. He did have the opportunity to double tap with Corrin, but he didn't have any actions, and he saw shooting next turn, so he decided not to do it. Earlier, SA had a shot when he was back here the turn before, and he ended up shooting at Aaron Kraken and doing 1 damage instead of shooting at an actionless Corrin, which in retrospect was probably a mistake. Even if Corrin, doing the 1 damage to Corrin is pretty important, and even though it's a little bit tougher shot because Corrin has the 1 extra agility dice, it's still probably worth shooting at Corrin instead of Kraken. That's one thing I think I did mess up on. But this next turn is pretty good. So because of Kraken, I still have all these calculate tokens. I end up keeping them around because they weren't useful in those previous round of attacks, and they come in really valuable now because now I can do K turns with all my ships. The Hyena Bombers have nice 2K turns, keeping them close, setting them up for next round, and Watt, K turns right here out of the way. Sko and Ace was a little out of the round, so I, instead of doing a 2-bank, one of the best blue moves the Ace has, I said I'm just going to do 2 turn, get him involved, and go from there. And he ends up falling for it, as we'll see before the next round of shooting. Okay, so we see after movement, but before combat, Corrin has fallen hard for my trap. He turns in, and all of a sudden I have 4 shots converging on Corrin. He does have the potential to take some of these shots off the board. Corrin shoots at my Separatist Bomber. You can see I nicely sort of blocked Corrin in. He can't boost, he can't barrel roll to get out of any of these. He's just gonna have to sit here and take it. When he does shoot this Sko and Bomber, nice range 1 attack, he has a focus. He ends up only rolling crit blank. And in what seems like a pretty bad move, he ends up spinning the focus. I end up rolling 2 natural evades, and he just wasted his focus. Aaron also gets to shoot at Separatist Ace. I think I take 1 damage from that attack, but so one thing I also mentioned, I didn't mention before, is we play this game in voice chat on Discord. So the log file is a little bit harder than ever to follow, but yeah. So I want to look again. So earlier I also deployed this Proxmine here just to sort of, I knew I was not going to be going back over this area space. Might as well zone him off. Like I said before, Blunt taking that red action really messed him up. He probably would have hit this if he had K-turned, but even still, doing a white 2-turn with the stress, having no shot, potentially having no shot again, even next turn, not being able to K-turn, like it's a huge opportunity cost to taking that one focus to try and kill the Trade Federation drone with a little bit higher chance. So again, like you got to think before you take this stress. Yeah, so let's run through these attacks. Like I said, I rolled double focus. I think this shot is that's going ace. Yeah, I get 1 evade, so I only take 1 damage. Pretty fine. He's unlikely to sort of kill me there. Definitely possible. And then I'm taking a bunch of shots at Corrin. Get a pretty good shot with Watt. I have 3 rerolls, and to calculate, so this shot always gonna hurt. He rolls double evade, range 1, 2 hits, 3 evades, 1 hit, 2 evades, 2 hits, 1 evade. So let's go back to our calculator thing before, because we take these and we plug in a 3-dice ship, no focus, and all my sort of abilities, and we look at the chart and see how much damage we should do on average. We see I end up doing 3 damage, which is it's pretty unlucky. It's only like 17% of the time I deal 3 damage or less, and like the odds to actually kill him in that salvo were not terrible. 47% of the time I deal 6 damage. Like that's 47% of the time I like win the game on that round. If Corrin goes down, I like literally win the game on the spot. So that sort of like move, even though it didn't work out, was still the sort of the right play. Those are the kind of plays you have to go for. Even though in this case, the dice weren't on my side, he rolled a ton of evades. To be fair, I later roll a fair number of evades on my Sko and Ace. So it sort of evens out over time in this game, but yeah, he's still in this game because of his dice rather than, superior strategy, I would say. One final thing to mention is he ends up going for a double tap with Corrin. Ends up being a good move because because he kills the ace, but also he's going to want to regen some shields at some point, doing it next turn. Double tapping is essentially getting his shot next turn in this turn and allowing him to regen his shields for essentially free. Yeah, so let's look at where he goes from here. Where do you think he got to go from this position, given all my ships are stressed? Although I do have 1 ship with the ability to like chase. Okay, so here, like I said, he had Corrin facing this direction. Could have gone anywhere. In my mind, he should have done a 3K turn. So in retrospect, maybe that wasn't quite the play, because the 3K turn quite possibly like clips this prox mine, and Corrin taking a prox mine right now, even if he regens his shield first, like it's really bad for him. One thing I probably owe my opponent a small apology for is I did this last game too. I forgot to deploy the prox mine before moving the ship. So I asked my opponent. He said, "Well, it's a tournament game," and I'm like, "It's a casual tournament." And so I sort of did it anyway, which ended up working out for me because now Blunt's going to fly over this prox mine. Something I definitely have to improve on. It's a lot harder on Vassal versus playing in real life, because in real life I just like palm the prox mine token and just like have it physically there to remind me. Whereas in Vassal, like I set this move up and then I have to wait like 90 seconds for my opponent, potentially longer because I play pretty quickly, for my opponent to figure out what he's doing, and then like to check his abilities. And yeah, it's a pain. It's something I definitely have to work on improving. End up bumping Watt because there was nowhere good for him to go. Like I said, this move, he should have just done a 2-turn. He should have just done a 3-turn. Like any of those moves are good. It gets him away from this prox mine location. Sets him up to like 4K, sloop, like anything is better than this move. This one hard turn with the stress, like it leaves him unable to like turn in. And he's gonna go end up going around this rock, which takes him so far out of the fight for so many turns that I can then like clean up these Z95s and win the game before Corrin ever really has the opportunity to re-engage. So this happened, last game. Like you can't take your ships out of the fight, even though Corrin like really, really wants to go out of the fight and regen the second shield. You can't afford the time. Like I'm getting continual value out of these ships. If he's in the fight, potentially it's another ship that you could take the ace off the board before it shoots and put you up, and then you sort of can maybe run away and regen that last shield. Okay, so I end up doing 1 damage to Blunt. I think I end up shooting a concussion missile at Aaron, and I think it only does like 1 damage. Yeah. Okay, here's a shot at Aaron. It does ends up doing hit crit, and the concussion missile text doesn't trigger, but he gets a weapons failure, which is definitely one of the best crits I could possibly get. Having a 1 attack dice ship is extremely worthless. Okay, so at the end of this round, Blunt ends up flying over this Proxmine. He takes 1 damage from the card text, 1 damage. He rolls 1 hit on the dice, puts him at 1 HP. And then he's sort of faced with this choice with Aaron Kraken. Aaron had the option to shoot. He chooses to fix his weapons failure rather than taking a focus. And it's the option, he can shoot skill and ace, 2 naked dice versus 2 naked dice. I think ace may have had a focus on this attack. And so, 2v2 potentially with a focus on ace. And I'm calculating it. I tell him, hey, man, this is an 18% shot. And he's like, okay. And he thinks about it. And he says shoot top. The range 1 shot. He had 6 HP at the time. He ends up rolling 2 hits, and I get 2 natural evades. But even though this shot at ace is like a long shot, it's like I said, 18%. Those are the kind of shots you have to take if you want to win the game. Like, if he shoots here and kills him, ace is off the board. And then Blunt is still on 1 HP, probably not going to get killed. Okay, well, I guess Tub is in range. Potentially, your odds of survival with Blunt go up. And if Blunt survives, you're in pretty good shape. So, it's just one of those things you have to know if you're ahead or behind. And if you're behind, you have to take like long shots to try and catch up. You have to, like in poker, you have to like play to your outs. And his out here was not killing Tub. There was no way he was ever going to kill Tub, even though he does, an impressive amount of damage for two dice ships with no actions. Largely thanks to Blount's ability. But again, Corrin's over here running away. If Corrin was able to, participate in this fight, potentially, PS kill ace, like his options for winning go way, way up. So definitely something you can sort of, I did feel like I encouraged this outcome that I wanted by, telling my opponent, hey, this is an 18% shot, giving him a very, true and factual, piece of information that encourages him to make the wrong decision. Okay, so here is probably the only like really, really serious mistake I made in this entire game, aside from forgetting to deploy the Proxmine. So I decide, hey, I'm just gonna focus the C95 down. I'm gonna swoop in with Watt, swoop in here. Ace is gonna turn in and barrel roll, go for the block if he makes like an aggressive move with Aaron. If he doesn't, which is sort of like the best case scenario for keeping my ace on the board is, turn in block. He runs in, I get the block, so ace can't be shot at, and I finish him off. But I make was a really large blunder, by not moving the ace first. Both these ships are PS3. I could easily have done it. I just wasn't thinking when it came time to deploy. This 2-bank ends up colliding with the back of the ace. I end up not being able to get my action, and then I roll 3 focus results and a crit into Aaron, and he rolls the 1 of 8 to stay alive, as we'll see in just a minute. Yeah, so like I said, I roll a bunch of eyeballs. I would have had a focus token if I had moved second. Definitely a huge mistake, and one that sort of at the time I was really concerned would cost me the game, because now he's like almost for sure going to 3k turn, and I have to spend Watt's turn turning after Aaron. I have to take another shot from him, potentially taking one of my very weakened ships off the board, and Watt is now not going to be able to like join in and kill Corin. So definitely a huge misplay. Definitely something you got to work on, even if you have to wait for your opponent to figure out where they're moving with their ships. Sort of I had a plan and then forgot about it and ended up costing me. You're probably saying, oh, what about Tub? Tub has no actions. Tub rolls a bunch of blanks. Ends up not working out. Okay, so I do turn in with Watt. Take Aaron off the board. I wasn't that concerned about MOV at the time. I should have been considering it a little bit more, but taking Aaron off the board was just like the thing to do to keep him from killing my ships for the next turn or two. Even if like turning in and going after Corrin was maybe a little bit more tempting. I sort of like knew that it would be difficult to deal all 5 damage to him. He'd regain his shield. He ends up shooting, I think, at SA and missing, and then I shoot back and end up taking 1 shield off of him. And Watt finishes off Aaron. So a little bit fortunate here in my dice. Definitely like him missing with Aaron and Corrin. Definitely big help in being able to win this game is having these ships stay on the board these extra turns. Another thing that comes up is I have this stun pilot crit from a turn before, and he's like really concerned, like, hey, what's the ruling on if you go over the asteroids? And I'm like, well, I look it up and read the text. I'm like, yeah, you probably take a damage. Okay, and I can tell from the tone of his voice and his question, he sort of rules out the possibility of me, catering on this asteroid. It's like completely out of his mind. And in retrospect, like going there, doing this 2k turn, or even doing like a 1 hard turn, 2 hard turn, something to bump Corrin was totally the play. I ended up doing this like 2 Talon roll. I sort of have this model in my head of him going after Watt. Largely because Watt's worth like the most points. In retrospect, like he's definitely gonna have to try and kill Tub and SA, and either stay healthy enough to above half points, or then he can come after Watt. So yeah, this two Talon roll ends up being a really bad play. He does like a 1 bank, shoots and kills Tub, as we'll see in a second. The other 2 ships just sort of turning around, trying to put some extra damage on Corrin. So yeah, here we can see his shot on. Okay, so like I was saying, I ended up doing this 2 Talon roll. It puts me up here. Corrin does like a 1 bank focus, something like that. Ends up being a really bad play because I was sort of thinking that Corrin was going to chase after Watt, and like Watt was way too far away. Corrin was either going to turn after SA, which is unlikely but possible, or he was going to turn and go after the bomber. And based on our conversations, I was pretty sure he's going to turn around and go after the bomber. So I should have just like K-turned on this asteroid, taking the 1 damage. Would have been a pretty solid move. I still have 1 HP. As long as you have that last HP, that's the one that really counts. So definitely the play to make, not just assuming he's going to have to go after Watt, even though Watt is 6 HP and really far away. He gets 4 hits, he kills the bomber, that's fine. This next attack by my ace is the really crucial one. I roll 2 hits naked, he rolls 1 of 8, and that puts him on half health, which is like really, really bad for him in this end game, because now Watt is worth more than half health Corrin. Half health Watt and half health Ace are worth more than Corrin. So to win, he has to both half health Watt and kill Ace, or he just has to kill Watt. Both of which are pretty difficult. Like, that's 3 damage on Watt and 1 damage on Ace, or 6 damage on Watt. Both of those pretty tough to get from this position. So we do end up talking about this because this is going into round 11, and yeah. Okay, so I decided that, or I came to the conclusion that his only really good move was like a K turn, sort of go after Ace, or a hard turn to try and go after Watt. So I decided I'm going to be aggressive. I'm gonna assume he's going over this way, and I do a 3 forward boost focus with Watt, and just like a 2 bank focus with Ace, sort of keeping my options open. In retrospect, the 2 bank was sort of not the play. You should have just gone 2 forward focus, or even just like 2 turn, just like run away and concede the fact that I was going to win on points. If he's facing over this way in SA's arc, like, he's in a bad spot to begin with, because he won't have any good shots. He probably won't have any shots. But Corrin, he pulls out the 3 sloop, which, to be honest, I forgot he had. He ends up not having a bullseye arc, which is a huge deal because his only real win condition was like shoot SA, shoot Watt this turn. Next turn, Watt can just like, do 3 forward, 4 forward, like whatever. Corrin has no real way of shooting like at a ship that's like directly in front of him. If I like bump Corrin here, Corrin has no way of ever shooting Watt again. So he's forced to take a shot at Watt, and after mouse deliberation, he only rolls 1 hit. I roll some evades. I shoot back at him, do 1 damage. Again, like, and from here I just decide, hey, there's no point like trying to play any sort of clever game. I'm just gonna, 3 forward with Watt, 3 bank boost with Ace, and win the game on points. So it's sort of like retrospectives. I feel like I played this game pretty well. Like, the opening engagement was sort of average. Like, if my opponent went with Benthic, he went like 1 bank, which bumped, and then stop. But if he'd done like stop 1 bank, like that extra focus token, it matters like a great deal. It's much harder to, well, I guess it's a little bit harder to kill him if he has that focus token. When I ran the calculations, the odds of killing him are, maybe like 10% less. But definitely puts him in a better position, both deal damage and sort of keep up his mobility versus having to do like, blue moves or a move that's going to bump. Yeah, like, definitely got some value out of my mines, or at least this top one, this bottom one. Like I said, I definitely think there was potential for him to disengage in a way that passes over this mine, especially if his Blount wasn't stressed, he might have K-turned over it. But yeah, I set a pretty good trap for Corrin, like in the central area, and even though it didn't work, like I said, like those are the maneuvers you have to take, and sometimes I win, and sometimes you just sort of do okay, and you have to keep playing the game. So yeah, definitely strategic mistake by my opponent to engage me in this corner of the board with no obstacles. Like, should have made a triangle, should have fought in and around the triangle, made use of the fact that he could split up his ships and I can't. It's definitely harder to play like a split up, like focus fire type strategy, but if you can do it, like, that's how you come out ahead of these like 4 ship sort of like synergy sort of builds that I effectively sort of have with my like Kraken and network calculations and missiles. So yeah, pretty good game. Kudos to my opponent. Definitely do not fly Corrin around the board for multiple turns, not getting shots. Like I said, I guess my opponent was sort of bailed out by the dice early on and keeping Corrin alive. it definitely sort of spooked him, I think, and he ends up playing too passively and too safe with Corrin, and that just allows me to sort of make up for some like lackluster attack dice into these E95s, and I end up polishing them off by the time Corrin swings around and is ready to re-engage. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of my analysis, and if you're interested in the game, I'll also try to include a link to both the log file and Nickel City X-Wing live casted the game. So they have a YouTube recording of that out, and I'll try and put it up. So yeah, thanks for watching.